r/AskReddit. Doctors of Reddit, what's the best, asking for a friend, story you've heard? If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video, and subscribe to the channel, or else my dog will force you to eat Brussels sprouts. Lady walks in, and goes, so if you cheated and got pregnant, but then had sex with your husband, would the baby become his? It took everything in me not to laugh. Doctor. Had a guy who just got out of jail a few days earlier, came in with his girlfriend, who had signed in for an STD check. Walk in to meet them, and he says casually, "Is it possible to get gonorrhea in your throat?" At that moment I knew that he had gonorrhea in his throat. One girl was interested in laxatives, for a friend. She tried to learn everything about the dose, where and what to buy, how to drink. She was brought in a week later with complete intestinal atony. She tried to lose weight so much, and drank 2 or 3 tablets at a time. I don't understand people who do this. I'm actively afraid of laxatives. I had to get a colonoscopy, and it was the worst thing I've ever had to do. It makes me seriously angry when I hear about people doing that to lose weight. I was asked the following. So, if I swallow cum, and flush it down with vodka, do I still get pregnant? She was in her early 20s, she waited for her actual friend, who broke her nose in a bar fight. I asked my doctor about AA for a friend of mine. Really? Years later the doctor still asks me how I'm doing with my sobriety. I've stopped trying to convince him, I really was asking for a friend. My father is a doctor, and he got a call once in the middle of the night, from his call share doctor's patient. The man asked what to do about a bump on his friend's arm, that he scratched and something came out. He mentioned it was leaking a little oil now. It was as it. He scratched a pimple. Woke the whole family up at 3 a.m. because he had to page my dad over as it. This makes me annoyed, because I have to call doctors at 3 a.m. with lab results when they're bad, and I almost always get a huge attitude. I get no one likes to be woken up in the middle of the night, but I'm not the one making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, to be up at this hour, to tell you that your patient's blood is full of dead heart muscle. Not mine, but one of the older pharmacists I work with, went out to help this 20-ish girl with some medical questions. She then asked him about condoms, and said, "If you were to do me, what condom would you use?" Yeah, he just walked away. Not a doctor, but I saw this dude say to a doctor, "Can 2 white people have a black child?" Asking for a friend. The man's wife had an affair. Edit. The dude had the baby in the stroller, and when he was walking out, he looked like he was going to yeet the child, and I was secretly dying inside. I have read that in some families, that is possible. One of the baby's parents must have an ancestor of another race. I knew a family that had this happen. The great-great-grandma was dark-skinned and they were very light-skinned. Caused confusion until a family member mentioned this. I can't for sure rule it out, but human skin color is controlled by hundreds of sets of key genes throughout your DNA. It's not an individual trait determined by one set of genes on a chromosome. Almost nothing about your appearance is. Some key defects or quirks may be caused by a single mismatch deletion though, so it's much more likely that that was an affair also. Studies have been done about the effects of THC on glaucoma. When I worked for a glaucoma specialist, we had a hippie-type person come in with their family member for a new patient evaluation, and ask the doctor to sign paperwork, okaying a medical marijuana script for the patient's glaucoma. Problem was that the patient was totally fine, didn't find any signs of the disease, and his eye pressure was within normal limits. And the doctor did not appreciate having someone try to trick him. To piggyback off of this, and because I'm tired of the questions, marijuana only lowers your eye pressures for max 4 hours. To have sustained effects, you'd need to hit the blood 6 times a day and nearly 2,200 times a year. Take the damn eye drops. Not a doctor, but a pharmacist. Someone called the pharmacy one day, a young guy. I picked up, "Excuse me, how much does Viagra cost? Is there anything cheaper? I have someone that needs it." I explained everything and suddenly, "Will it work if I take it with alcohol?" The guy began asking for someone else, at the end it was for him, and was asking just because he wanted his little one to work while drunk. So, does it work? Asking for a friend. It'll stay up, but you probably won't be able to finish. Also don't take things that fuck with your blood pressure on top of alcohol. There are easier ways to have a really dumb night out. Divorced women cougars like to explain muscle strains as sex injuries, to get a rise out of doctors. Best way to deal with this, is to stay monotone and not react. Patient describes proximal adductor muscle pain and hip flexion during recreational activity, rated 7 out of 10, Pain is now present during ambulation. If you don't react, they move along. Doesn't take long in the office to have seen it or heard everything. I'm not interested that you are recently divorced, started working out, and discovered Tinder. Good on you, but it takes more to get a rise out of me. One colleague in training had a professional cuddler with a similar injury. Doc was very conservative, possibly on the sheltered side, and in front of two of his superiors during the case, and she was not shy. I would add that she was not visually what I assume most would hope for in a professional cuddler either. That one I enjoyed, on account of him, not her. General practitioner here. One of my non-medical friends asks me that his friend wants to know a good home remedy for an STD. I told him a tablespoon of powdered detergent, mixed in 1 glass of water should work. Next thing I know, he's in my kitchen stirring a glass. Not a doctor. But I was an intern. I was in the OPD, and this man from a different province came in, and told me that his friend has injected petroleum jelly in their member years ago, and that now it's getting painful. Yeah, he came back the next day and showed his lumpy member. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below for more daily content.